Right. So thank you all for coming, and because I hope it's useful to you. Hi. And what I'm going to start off with is by just asking you what processes do you follow when you read an article? These questions. What processes do you follow when you read articles? What do you look for when you read an article? What processes do you follow for writing? And what resources have you sought or used to support your reading and writing in graduate school? So just want you to think about it for a moment.
Oh,
yeah, go ahead.
I am definitely inexperienced and not really knowing what I'm doing. So when I'm still trying to get out of the habit of when I read an article of like trying to read every single word and going through the whole thing. And I know that like right now I'm trying to train myself just to read through the abstract and then conclusion and then kind of skim through the rest of it, but I still haven't trained myself to do that yet. And it's kind of kicking my butt right now when I have this class with tons of readings and I'm way behind already. So I'm trying to train myself to do that. If there are any other tricks that people know that could help me, would be appreciated. And then as for resources, I'm still really old school, not like to use books.
Okay.
And I get kind of laughed at that I don't use as many articles when I write papers, and I'm trying to get more into using articles, but I still like my books where I can stick post-it notes.
Oh, okay.
Because
For me, I think for me it's all about what am I wanting to get out of the article. So,
Okay.
for example, if it's a heavily researched class, I look closer at the methods, I look closer at the findings than I do, say, the literature review. Not that I don't read that, but for me the focus is, okay, what is this research trying to say? When it's general, sort of just, content-based, then the first thing I do honestly is I Google the author and I read their bio. I don't know why I do that, but I think their bios say a lot about what they're researching, what they're writing. Yeah. And other times I'm just confused as hell and I have no idea what I'm looking for. So I just start from the beginning and hope that I get something out of there.
yeah. Let's see. One thing I do is I look and I see. I start at the back and I look at their bibliography. So I look at what are they pulling from, and then so from that I look at I find all the parentheses that they're using MLA, and I'm seeing how that they're using the literature that they're using to support a statement. So
Okay.
So I just read right before or after the parentheses and seeing how are they using this article that I'm familiar with to support something that they're saying. That's a really bad way to put it, but
No, I think that's.
yeah.
What about writing?
I am a really slow reader.
Okay.
And actually, this is my, this is foreign language for me. So, actually, I try to look up all the vocabularies that I don't know, so which is really stop reading for a long time. So, my advisor told suggested me to have a question first. After reading some headings and titles, and have a question first, and while reading, try to find some solution or answers what I had before. So just go through the reading. I try to find some answers what I had before, and and so I try to read from the first and to the end really thoroughly. Yeah, that's my problem. I don't know.
Okay, and anything about writing or resources that you use to help you with your reading and writing? Do you follow any process? Maybe like outlines, do you create outlines?
Oh shoot, that's tough because sometimes I follow an outline, it's like, all right, this is what I want to say. And then I don't have anything supporting what I want to say. And so it's like, all right, I'm going to come at it this way, and I'm going to support it. I'm going to support my argument this way and that way and this way and that way. And then I end up with like an empty set. It's like I could support this and that, and then nothing follows my outline. So it's not as structured or as beautiful as I would hope that it would be. And so, yeah, and then from that, I guess I just decided I'm just gonna write down everything I think is interesting and just get it on the page because this is just crazy. So, yeah.
Do you call it more like free writing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just find stuff that's interesting, support it, and just get it down because my outlines they're not. It makes sense in my head, the structure makes sense, but there's nothing there in the literature or in my research to support that structure.
Okay.
So I do some of the same things with reading. I'm also a slow reader, and I read everything. I start in the back and see, are they going to pull on anybody I know with the bibliography? And I do kind of the opposite of you. I really like the lit review because it's the most interesting part. I don't really care about the data so much, that's just my, weird thing. But also, like, I am very, I don't really know how to write critiques. It's not something that I've done before, like Alex was saying, in making an outline and trying to find supporting material. It's like, and then you want to also write what's interesting to you. Is I can't figure out, like, what am I critiquing it against? Or am I just pulling out the parts that are interesting to me? Or do I need to comment on their methodology and all that stuff? And if it's something short, I don't know how to comment on what's interesting and their methodology and a bunch of other stuff. So I'm never really sure what to do with it. And then also because I read it from the beginning to the end, if it's a whole book or if it's a 20-page article and I have like a page to write a critique, I don't know which stuff to put in and which stuff to take out. So I usually end up writing 20 pages of a whole bunch of junk and then not knowing which stuff to pick to put in the paper.
One thing that I started doing in the fall, and someone suggested, is reverse outlining.
I'm going to talk about that in a minute.
For me, it was like, oh my gosh, why hasn't anybody told me all of this? Which is like you go through and you pick out, you write your paper and then you draw an outline based off of what your paper is. And if it doesn't fit, if it doesn't go along with that, with your argument or whatever you're writing, then it clearly needs to either go somewhere else or it needs to be deleted. And I found that really helpful, but I also found that by the time I did the reverse outline, it's like you've written 20 pages and then if it doesn't, you're like butchering your paper, which is the point.
It's disheartening.
Right. So.
Yeah, that's it's a useful thing to do. In fact, I'd say that it must be done as a part of the process. So these are all really good ideas and
Something else I do is I'm in what's called, I'm learning is an external processor. So I have like a list of people that I can call and like tell them, I'm testing out this idea. And like, it's like I have all these thoughts and ways to articulate something stuck in my head. And it doesn't come out of my head until I'm talking to somebody. So, friends on Facebook and stuff. I'm like, hey, whatever happened to this, Janet's concept of constructive marginality? Where'd this go? I can't find this in the literature. What, did it get subsumed by another concept, or is it just abandoned, or just testing out ideas? And so that's something that I do.
Some people even like to record their stuff on an audio thing. If you're having some like writer's block, but you have it all in your head, so you just talk it out to yourself and record it, so that then maybe sometimes the audio to text kind of software you have. Try that also. Yeah. So today's workshop is mainly. So we're going to be talking about reading, with the purpose of to use it to help us write, to reading papers to help us write. So I'm going to speak about reading for content. So some of the things of like how do I read fast, or how do I critique. So I will speak about that a little bit, but my focus is mainly on reading for for writing style. That's what I'm going to be talking more about. Okay, about the structuring of papers. How do you structure papers? And I'm going to be using a book called They Say, I Say, which is useful even for writing literature reviews, because I think most of academic papers, academic writing is kind of like argumentative writing or persuasive writing. So I'll be focusing on that a lot more. So the first hour, we'll just talk about some of these strategies up till 1:30, and maybe a couple of activities. And the second half will be about you writing something that you are working on already, or maybe reading, you want to read. So I have some reading and writing exercises that you can apply to what you are doing, either for your class or maybe for your dissertation or thesis. So let me start with the reading for content. I think like many times you would have to read a paper not more than once, and not just not delve into the details right away. So you could start by doing like a preview or a skimming. Now, if you do, your strategies would be different if it's for a course paper and if it's for a literature review. If you're reading, if it's for a course paper. Whether it's for both, one good way is to start by previewing. So previewing being, look at the title, the introduction, the headings and subheadings, topic sentences. Have you heard of this term, topic sentences? Because every paragraph, the first sentence or the concluding sentence usually gives the main idea of that paragraph. So you don't have to read the whole paragraph, just read the first sentence or the last sentence. And maybe the tables, charts and figures, conclusion. So the whole idea about previewing is to see what are the main ideas and what are the main arguments that this article is or this author is making. Then the thing is about annotating. Now annotating would be different for if you're doing a literature review. If you're doing a literature review, then you would probably be looking for quotes that support your claims. Okay, so you're not going to write down all of the stuff that's there in the paper, but only that stuff that you want to support a claim that you want the author to say what you actually want to say. So that could be a goal. But if it's for a course, then maybe just to find out what are the repeating key concepts. Some concepts or phrases or statements keep repeating, so you could note those down. What evidence is provided to support the claims. So here, if for a critique, you would be looking at, okay, they are making these claims, but on what basis are they making these claims? So look for evidence also to support that they are using. Now, while annotating, it's important that you put in your voice, make it distinguish your voice or the thoughts and critiques or whatever is coming in your mind, to separate that from what the author is saying. Maybe you use your own strategy. I usually put it in a different bracket. It just comes at that moment, so other people use it, like use the comment box in Word to separate your thoughts from the ones that the author is making. So that's useful when you're doing the literature review, because you're looking for direct quotes to put in. And if you don't do that, then sometimes you might just put in your idea, thinking that it's you think it's your idea, but it's actually the author's, or the other way around. So then that's where plagiarism happens by mistake, with not intentionally. Then, I mean, this could be the third reading, but as you do it, you read more and more stuff, it probably happens in the second reading itself. Because you'll be evaluating, is the evidence credible, trustworthy, persuasive, are there any inconsistencies in the argument, is there a coherent flow? So this is something that I think many times we don't really look for. Is there a coherent flow between what the author started with and what the author is ending with? Is there a coherent flow throughout? Because that's something you have to pay attention to even when you're writing. Because many times you start writing with something, but your thinking develops as you write, and you end up in a totally different place from where you started. So as part of a writing process as well, you have to go back and look at your entire paper to see, okay, what I started with, am I ending with the same stuff? So is that coherence there? And the point about Google, I have mentioned that. Google and skim through body of work. Because an important thing about doing for an article, especially when it comes to literature reviewing, is to contextualize the article. Okay. Now, it could, in case of a course, when you're reading texts, you contextualize it to the extent that you're comparing and contrasting one article with the other articles that are there in that particular week. Okay. And the thing about reading 3 different articles in a course is not so much to see are they all saying the same thing and but what are the tensions across the articles. Okay. So one way to do that is to contextualize it. And contextualizing is related to a previous point about responding to which scholars. So some of you said that you'll look for bibliographies. It's related to their contextualizing part. Which scholars are these people responding to, or which arguments are they responding to? So noting that down allows you to situate the author within a particular group, and the people he is responding to either within that group but differing in some way from that other group. So that's an important part. Reading the bibliography is to be able to situate the author in the literature. So that the literature could be like a disciplinary context or paradigm, like you have you heard of post-positivist, critical, post-structural paradigms? So it may not be something that you're doing for right now, but it's useful to know which disciplinary perspective are they coming from, which paradigm are they coming from, which socio-cultural context are they coming from. So to situate that. And of course, contextualize, again, your personal experience, your critique of it, you have to situate your experience as well. Situate it is in where are you coming from. So that's not that your response or your critique to it is not, it also has a context. Okay, you're coming from a particular place. So your response to this particular person is situated. And then as you read more and more stuff, you can find authors who think more like you. So that's how, so if you want to support your claims, you look for authors who are from that similar paradigmatic perspective. Okay, that's how you can look. For example, if I situate myself in a critical theory perspective or the discipline of cultural studies, then for anything I want to say, for example, I was doing something on empathy. I write empathy, capital A&D, cultural studies, and then I get a different set of articles. So then I find, what are they saying about empathy? But I'm looking for particular people who are saying the stuff that I want to say. If I put just empathy, I'm going to get just way too much stuff. So contextualizing is an important thing that you need to do when you read articles. Then reading for writing style, and this is what I'm going to focus more on. Most of the times when we read articles, we are just reading for content, and we don't spend too much time on the writing style. And today what I want to do is that you focus on the writing style more. So identify any scholarly paper that you're going to be reading. What's the narrative hook? That is, how is that person starting the conversation? What's the problem? Where is the problem statement? Where is the thesis statement? How are they using heading and subheadings as signposts? They are using that to say that this is the idea we are going to talk about in this particular section. Okay, how frequently do they use headings and signposts? Topic sentences again as signposts. So these are some things that you will look for, you're looking for as a reader in an article. Similarly, as a writer, these are stuff that you should put in your writing. And then there is this one idea per paragraph rule. Do not, if you're writing 3 ideas, probably should separate it into 2 or more paragraphs. Okay. And how frequently do they put transitions? They'll start off by saying, in this article, I'm going to first discuss this, followed by this, and finally I conclude with this. You will find those transitions throughout. And then when they move from one section to another, there's going to be a transition. In this section, I discussed this, but in the next section, I'm going to contradict that, or maybe provide a different angle to it. So you're going to see those transitions. And that's something, again, that you look for. And see how different scholars are doing it. And how frequently do they repeat the thesis statement? How are they reformulating the thesis statement from the first paragraph to the concluding paragraph? So look at it from a linguistic perspective. What writing, what words are they using? And in the next slide I'll speak more about that actually. And another thing is active voice or passive voice. When I first started the program, because in India we tend to write a lot more in passive voice and long sentences. So I had to change to writing more in active voice. And I think there is a tendency over here because generally passive voice is thought of as being more formal. But some actually prefer active voice. I think generally active voice is what is preferred. First person, third person depends on the paradigmatic perspective. Some approaches, like post-positivist approaches, will prefer if it's written in a third person because that's more neutral, but more subjectivist perspective. Subjectivist as in, where personal experience is valued a lot more, first person is used a lot more. So depending on where you situate yourself and the articles that you tend to read more, you could follow that particular genre, of first person or third person. And also, writing concisely and succinctly is something that, how often do, again, that's a style that you look for in the articles that you're reading, to get a sense of how do I write, kind of like mimicking the scholars whom you tend to read more. So I have this, it's a draft of my own proposal that I wrote. So I'm going to ask you to kind of identify some of those linguistic structures, not because I didn't know which article to take. So I thought, why don't I just give my thing? Because I don't know what you people read, and so and it's a way for you to butcher it as well and tell me, this doesn't make sense, and so whatever like that. And I'm going to give you this handout of the They Say, I Say book, which has templates.
I can do it.
No, why don't I just pick this?
Alex, did you sign in? Did you already?
I did, yes.
Okay.
Okay, but before, let me just introduce that They Say, I Say Okay, so before you get into that exercise, so this book called They Say or I Say, and they have a title that says The Moves That Matter in Academic Writing. So it's the linguistic moves, so think of it as like sort of like dancing, or what kind of moves do they make, transitioning from they say to I say. And they call writing as entering a conversation, okay? And your goal is to put scholars in dialogue with each other. So when you start looking for articles to see how people are responding to each other, then that thing about contextualizing becomes a lot easier. Okay.
Does this happen in this happens in the lit review, right?
Yeah, it's something that you would be able to do.
You wouldn't do this in the research findings. This is all.
Oh, even in the research findings. Yeah, I guess not so much, because there you would be, this would be more in the literature review, but also in the discussion section. The research findings also, you would be trying to connect what your participants said.
Okay.
You will be moving from what the participants said, from what you interpret, and by comparing what you interpret with what the literature says. So I think even in the findings you would be moving between how different people could interpret it differently. So for example, so when I spoke of the problem statement, now the problem statement could be framed as an ongoing debate, a puzzle, a tension, a controversy, or a gap in the literature. People frame it in different ways. So when you're looking at an article, look for that debate, and the debate you will find through such linguistic structures like on the one hand, on the other hand, or while these people say this, those people say this, and we really don't know what it is. Therefore, so that's justifying the need for the study, right? By saying that there is this huge debate going on. So some of the words would be despite, yet, nevertheless, in spite of, notwithstanding. So you can use these words to signal that kind of statement, to point out the debate. Oops. Okay. And another way to do a they say is, a number of exologists have suggested, Americans today tend to believe. So these are some kind of templates that this book has. So you're not supposed to use the book in a very formulaic way. You're not going to have the authors write in exactly those words. But it's a way for you to look at how people are transitioning from they say to I say, and back to they say. Okay. And another thing is, the words could be, don't just say said and talked. There could be different kinds of words, complain, protest, challenge, chastise, because it's a conversation and there is contention. So use these different kinds of words to show that contention. Okay. So now you can go and have a look about maybe for 10 minutes and see if you can identify the problem statement, a thesis statement. Do you know what's the difference between them?
Tell us.
Okay. So problem statement is like this debate or puzzle, and a thesis statement is an argument you're going to make. I argue that. So it's a thesis, you're making a statement at the beginning about what how your paper is responding to, what's your position in this debate. That's the thesis statement. Okay. And purpose statement is somewhat the thesis statement, because both of them, I think they are used interchangeably many times, thesis statement and purpose statement.
What if your thesis is more of a exploratory? You're just kind of going into a...
But you would probably be going with some kind of, you mean it's like more of an open-ended, and so you're not going to make a claim. Is that what you're saying? Mm-hmm. You're open to different perspectives.
Yeah, I'm setting out to figure out how this phenomena fits into this existing body of work where there has not been a connection before.
Can you, are you talking about it in relation to a topic of yours? Can you just say what the
Oh,
topic
yeah,
is?
there's the work of intercultural competence has been within many fields, but has not been within the immigrant entrepreneurship field, so I'm viewing my thesis as like a bridge. So is that an argument? Would the argument be, this hasn't been thought of this way, I'll make it, people think of it in this way? Is that,
Yeah,
okay,
that is
all right,
the-
it's the external processing, right? It's, you know, just need to, all right, thanks.
Oh, okay. So, did you, is it clear what you're supposed to do with it? Okay. Yeah. and being able to find the humanistic. Okay, so let's just discuss what you've been able. Were you able to find the thesis statement or the problem statement, and how did you know it was a thesis statement?
There were a lot of sources.
Oops. Yeah.
Forbes, Harrison, Kumar, Kadir, Abdullah, Hassan.
So what did that signal to you? Can you read it? Okay, it is. What did that signal to you?
Oh, it just signaled to me that it's kind of a convergence of a lot of different names and dates, and I figured, oh, this must be the thesis statement.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, because that's interesting. Because that it's bringing in literature from somewhere to make a claim. So that's why you're thinking that's a thesis statement. Okay.
Yeah, it seemed like to be a convergence. And you said on one hand, on the other hand, which was
Okay.
And then, in that same sentence, after on the one hand and the other, you outright say, this project explores the intriguing assumption, blah, blah, blah. And later say, the study examines how. So that makes it really clear what you're talking about.
I guess so for me, the indicator was in that very first opening sentence, which you present what the overarching, I guess, ideal is, and that is that folks in marginalized communities, although there are good things happening, that really this is going to interrogate sort of what actually is happening. And then later on is where you let us know, and this is my position, what I'm gonna explore, right? And that is basically the assumption that PSM teachers are unproblematically oriented towards communities. But I think we're all saying the same thing, essentially.
So yeah, so basically you can, some of the words help you signal, okay, there's a debate over here. You know, and sometimes you may just be looking for the content, but because the words are like the secondary thing, you may not look at it as an argument or. So by focusing on the words, and the contradictions, then you see that there's a puzzle or there's a debate or a controversy over here. And you as a writer, or the writer usually it's all about positioning yourself within that debate. So here what I've done is like, headings are like a signpost. So this paragraph is all about the goals. It's all about the purpose. What is the purpose of this whole thing? What's the scope of the paper? Now the first sentence is usually, some of them call it as a narrative hook. And because this was for a fellowship application, so the whole idea was to be very succinct and dive into what the project is all about at the beginning. For some other kind of genre, you may start off with a question, like a thoughtful question, or so the first sentence is usually called the narrative hook. And so look at how different scholars write narrative hooks. What do they write to get people to read? What's that first sentence like? So the whole thing, the interrogates part is the states the purpose, scope and direction of the project early on. So not getting to that much later. You know, sometimes you start off with the background and then you get to the purpose statement in the second page or the third page. You should get at it right at the beginning. You know, so state the purpose, then get into the background further. Maybe so the first paragraph is supposed to preview what the paper is all about and then get into the details in the subsequent paragraph. Okay. And look at how different, that's what I think, but look at how other scholars do it. Do they first start with the background and then get into do they lead you gradually into the problem, or do they state it right away? So that's something that you can look at in the different papers that you read. So the transition word of however is taking you from one direction to the other direction, and you said on the one hand and the other hand there was somewhere over there which I'm not marked here.
Yeah, it's right under the however,
Is it?
right under it.
Oh yeah, it's here on the one hand. You're right. Then I was wondering, some of these sentences are too long. Do you think they need to be broken down into shorter sentences?
Well, yeah, but I mean, yes, and I think you would lose something if you did. You
Okay.
know,
So long as the idea is it understandable, or the sentence is so long that you'll get lost in it?
Mhm. Yeah, I guess you could create a period after Hassan 2011 and just start up again.
Okay. And start another sentence. Yeah. But you think that it worked fine?
I'm notorious for
Long sentence.
ridiculous long sentences.
Okay.
That's always something that people rip me apart for. So.
Okay.
It's okay, there was somewhere later on in the paper where I had to read it a few times
Few
because it
times.
was really long.
Long.
Yeah.
Okay. I tend to write long sentences. I think it's because in India people love long sentences. Anyway, the purpose statement. So you can see that this is like a problem statement because I'm saying it explores the intriguing assumption. So that's like a problem and unproblematically oriented. So that's the problem statement, and the next statement is like a purpose statement because the purpose statement is flowing from the problem statement. It's coming out of the problem statement. So you say hence, therefore, and so you've justified that there is a problem or a gap. Previously I mentioned all of these people. Over here this is the goal, but this is on the other hand. So there's the debate. And I'm saying that both sides of the debate are because of the research over here. I'm asking, isn't there an assumption being made? And my project therefore is exploring this assumption. Okay. So that's basically the idea is that whenever you are looking for an article, to look at those structures. Are those structures there in this paper? How do different scholars position those, how do they move from one, is it right, all of it in one paragraph? Do they break it down in more than one paragraph? Is it in the first paragraph? Is it in the second paragraph? So keep looking for those structures. Okay, so just continuing with this they say, I say piece. You can, so your argument, crafting your argument as a response is what you have to do as a writer. So that's the I say part. The they say is okay, what are all of them saying? And what are you saying? So you have to evaluate scholars whenever you bring them in. So you could say, for example, I think X is mistaken because they overlook. So you could be disagreeing for a variety of reasons. That's part of the evaluative exercise that you're doing. But you can also agree and disagree simultaneously. So for example, although I agree with X up to a point, I cannot accept this overall, let me make it bigger. I cannot accept his overall conclusion that,
You can use I in these. This is the active voice. that is-
Active voice,
Okay.
yeah, but it depends upon which genre again. You know, some scholars, like I said, the different kinds of scholars use differently. So it depends on where the kind of articles you are reading for your research and how
Okay.
they write. You probably should write in that way. So if most of the people are using, I am not feeling that it's a problem to write in first person, then you can write as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So one way to rewrite that would be like, although the research shows that, you know, so-and-so, you know, is correct up to the point, other research,
Yeah.
like the overall conclusions, negate
Mm-hmm.
this
Mhm.
existing body of literature.
Yeah. Yeah. If you do not have an first person over there. But the idea is that you would be showing more than one side perspective. You know? Or again, my feelings on the issue are mixed. Obviously, the writers who created these templates are totally first person. You know, but you will find that in others, some scholarly research that's not done as often. But your how even if you're not using the first person, at the end of a debate you have a concluding sentence. In that concluding sentence, you are giving your evaluation of the overall debate, and that's what you are saying. Even though you're not putting I over there, what's the last word in the paper that you're making is what you are saying. It's based on your evaluation of what's there, right? Even though you may phrase it in a third person sentence. But you have to make that evaluation as a writer. So like I said, the thesis statement has I argue, I maintain, I assert, I show how, I illustrate how. Because that's giving you the scope of... Also, name the naysayers. So you are making your statement. Sometimes Prezi is not as useful as... Okay, how do I get back to this? Okay, yeah. Name your naysayers. Situating yourself in the conversation. And so you've said whatever you've said, you made that conclusion, and you have to acknowledge that I know those people are going to disagree with me, but still I'm going to say this. Okay? So for example, here many feminists would probably object that. Biologists, of course, may want to dispute my claim. Nevertheless, both followers and critics of Malcolm X will probably argue that. Okay, so it's naming your naysayers. And in the draft that I gave you, at the end, if you see the statement, at the same time, it's towards the end. At the same time, the project also seeks to situate their understanding. It's not very clear over here, but the reason why I wrote that is because I didn't name the naysayers, but I was responding to some scholars saying, but your study is just in one project, is one site in some place in India. Why is it relevant for us over here in the US, right? So I didn't name the naysayers, but I said at the same time, the project seeks to situate their understandings and teaching practices in the historical, social and political context. This was a different response. The reason I was saying, am I blaming the teachers? Am I saying that this is the teachers that are a problem? I'm saying no, it's not just the teachers. It's not a problem of that medical college. It's a problem in the whole country because of the historical context. So I'm generalizing it. I'm using this one site. By this statement, I'm generalizing my findings from that one site to a bigger context, right? Okay, and so the last part I'm going to get at is the process writing. This is related to the thing about all of this was about how to read so that, to write using linguistic styles. But then it's also, that's more like writing pedagogies, they talk of it as genre writing. Process writing is when you understand that you're never going to write anything in the first go. you have to know that there are going to be multiple revisions. So I can show you the revisions that I made for any kind of exam. It's like a special paper or a thesis. I have draft January 10th, draft January 11th, draft February, so multiple drafts. I mean, they probably be 10 to 12, 10 drafts. So just getting used to the idea that you have to write multiple drafts. So don't feel disheartened, oh no, I've just not gotten the right thing yet, because it's a process. Even after you submit it, you can feel that, oh, I could have revised that, okay? So to start, knowing that that's the process, the first thing to do would be to write an outline. And somewhere in the middle, you would be doing a reverse outline. So reverse outline, like what Tony was saying, is that you, like what I did for my, what I showed you, is writing down, is there the one idea per paragraph rule? Is there a logical flow across it? Is it coherent from the beginning till the end? Okay, and then comparing it with an outline, and comparing with the original outline, and then you'll probably realize that you've gone off track somewhere, and then deleting stuff, editing stuff. That's what you would be. That's what the reverse outlining is important for, and revising. So these are some illustrative outlines. Many books provide. This is from Creswell, who gives outlines for writing the introduction chapter, literature review chapter, writing the abstract. So you could look at Creswell for these kinds of templates. Another one is like for the literature review or even for course papers, introduction, 3 different perspectives, they are in conversation with each other, and the conclusion, okay, which synthesizes all of these 3 different perspectives. So you could use either of these structures to do some writing.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Are you going to send that?
I'm going to be putting it up on that. If you look at your email, there's a blog site. I'm going to be putting this in the blog, so you can just access it from there. And these are the resources that you can look at. So this is Creswell for how to. He has those structures, like I said. The They Say I Say book, General Academic Writing. And I don't know if you have looked at university writing centers, but those are the best places to look for writing resources. Like the reverse outlining, how to do a reverse outlining, how to write a thesis statement, how to develop what's the difference between thesis statement and problem statement. These writing centers have all that kind of information and lots of resources. The UMN, I don't know if you know about the writing center at the UFM. Has anybody visited it? You have? Have you found it useful?
Yeah, to a certain extent.
Okay.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it. Yes. The problem is, when you walk in there with a 25-page paper, there's very little that they can do, especially depending on the discipline, right? So, I walked in last semester with, a huge paper, and we focused for an hour on one paragraph, and that was really frustrating. But at the same time, well, what else did I expect, right?
Yeah.
They would need ample time to read it over and familiarize themselves with the literature and the professor, and so I think there's an extent at which, as a graduate student, like peers to me are the best reviewers because they know, especially if they're in the course with you. But yeah, I mean, there was definitely a limit that they could be helpful with.
Okay, I'm just going to pass out these reading exercises that you can use. You can choose whichever you want or none of them and do your own thing. It's on both pages, okay? So the reading exercise is something that what we were doing with my thing, but you can do it with a scholarly, maybe some reading that you have for class. See if you can do that. Yeah.
What is reverse outline? Because like, what I do is when I write is normally I have kind of an idea of what I'm going for, but as I'm doing my research, I find like other things that I add in. So it's like I never make an outline. I just write, and then as I go along, I might go in a different direction. And what I'll do is wherever I end up, I might go back and change my thesis statement based on what I found in my research, and then. So like I'm going back and reviewing everything, making sure that it makes sense. Is that what a reverse outline is? Or
That is, what you're doing is more like revising, I would say.
Yeah. So
But a reverse outline would be, let me see, okay, over here, there's one reverse outlining. I know there's one Duke thing, resource in Duke University where they are very explicit. It's nice to take it forever. Well, reverse outlining would be basically to identify what is the main point in each paragraph. Does this paragraph have more than one idea? If so, do I need to change it? Then looking at the sequence of the ideas, are they flowing logically? Taking every paragraph and writing out what's the main idea over there, and then just looking at the comments that you've made and see, okay, is it going according to the flow? So I guess it's something that what you're doing, but you're not doing it. You're not creating an outline in written form. So you're just looking at it. Okay, yeah, I can see the flow. I can see the flow. You're not actually writing it down as an outline.
Okay.
I actually do write it down, just because, one, because I'm terrible at following like what I've written, but for me it's helpful to write it down, because then I can look at the skeleton. So it's like taking your huge paper and figuring out, okay, what's the topic sentence? Do I have supporting information? Do I have a transition sentence? And I have always found that I have gone off track in that paragraph, and it doesn't fit,
Yeah.
but it might fit somewhere else.
Yeah, usually I do that, but not by writing it down. But I think the largest paper I've had so far is like 20 pages. So, there hasn't been something so long where I can't see the, you know what I mean? Like if it's a big, huge paper, I can see where it's really hard to actually see the flow of the whole paper when it's that long. But that's, it's good writing stuff down.
Outlining, to give you an example of outlining, here's my dissertation outline.
Lord.
Right, introduction outline, the literature review outline, the first finding chapter outline, the second finding chapter outline, the third finding chapter. I'm very happy with this outline. I've just not been able to start writing. I wish I could just submit the outline and say, can I graduate now? So,
Wow.
because then you get an idea of the bigger picture, and then when you're writing down, then you are less likely to go off track, although you can still go off track. And then do a reverse outline to see, are you still? Okay, so basically feel free to choose whichever, to do whatever you're writing. Maybe you're doing some writing for some particular project, you can use it. You can use here, you can do it at another time.
Oh, we can do that now, right?
Yeah, the thing
We have
is
the room for two.
till 2:30.
Great.
We have the
Okay.
room here till 2, you can do it right
All
now.
right.
I'm working on Shirazis.
Okay. And I also want you to fill this up. You don't have to put your name on it, but so the first page is what did you find useful, second page is what did you not find useful, what more would you have liked to know.
I lost my pen.
You want to use my pen?
I'm just thinking, or would you prefer if I emailed it to you, or?
Yeah, Or you can just comment on the blog. I'm just waiting for somebody to write on the blog.
Where's
It's
the
only me
blog?
who's
It's
listening.
in the email.
It's in the email.
Do you have that book, the They Say, I Say?
You know it's there online for free. So just type they
Where?
say, I say. In Google, you'll get it.
Okay. Okay.
I have it though. If you don't find it, I can send you the PDF.
Okay. Oh, you can download it?
Yeah, you can download it.
Wow. Okay.
I've got that Indian side of me which looks for pirated stuff.
Maybe that's the student side of it.
Yes.
Oh shit, I said that on video.
Ah!
I should edit that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, if it's available on Google,
Yeah.
it has to be legitimate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where is this blog post?
It's in the email announcement for the workshops that was sent on February 10th.
Yeah, let me put this Prezi on it right
How do
now.
I comment though?
I haven't put up, I think if you go down to, if you select a particular post, you can comment only on the post. So,
Yeah.
I haven't put up a post, maybe I'll just put it up now so that you can comment on it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Let me put up a post right now so you can comment on it.
Is the book only 22 pages?
Which book?
They Say, I Say.
No, I think it's longer than that.
No, you don't have.
So I'm going to put a new post.
Do you want to keep the video camera rolling or?
Oh, you can, yeah, you know how to,
No, I'll probably figure it out.